Hello everyone, my name is Imogen, and here's what I think it's important that you know about me. Before I came here today, I have been to 28 countries and 3 continents. I've lived in 5 houses in 3 countries, I speak 2 languages, and I'm trying to learn a lot more. And in a lot of places, this would all be considered really impressive. But in such an international community like this, not only is it normal, it's considered expected to have multiple passports, speak multiple languages, have lived in multiple countries. But where I grew up, it was nothing like this. The youngest I remember being is about 6 years old, living in a farmhouse on the outskirts of a small village, on the outskirts of a small town, on the outskirts of a small city. You get the idea, middle of nowhere in the English countryside. And don't get me wrong, I liked it a lot here, and I love my giant trampoline. But I didn't realize then just how big the world really is. Because I'd only really experienced one country, a couple schools, couple houses, and everything kind of felt the same to me. I'm British, so were my parents, my sister, my couple of closest friends, and so that's all I really knew of the world. But all of this changed somewhere around my last year of primary school, when my dad asked me very out of the blue if I'd like to see some elephants. Well, I did. A lot of them, in fact, and very up close, especially when one of them tried to throw a stick at me with its trunk. But that's a story for another day, because it's more important that you understand how I got here, because this isn't a zoo and we didn't simply go on holiday. This is me at 11 years old, confused, exhausted, and running through far too many airports on the 16th of March 2020, with 9 giant suitcases and the 4 members of my little family chasing every single closing border on the planet. Because everyone experienced a lot of change during COVID, and this was mine. New city, new country, new continent, new life, Mozambique. And when I looked around myself here, I started to notice that I was the one white girl at every event, especially at gymnastics. And I also started to notice that everyone around me kind of looked alike and kind of thought alike and kind of sounded alike except me. And well, at 11 years old, this kind of felt like nobody understood me. But I was simply too young to realize that I was just as similar to every other British child as I perceived my Mozambican friends to be to each other. And well, years later, I was 15, finishing my GCSEs, and I wanted something else. I wanted to have stability and a better education, so like any normal teenage girl, did some research, went on Google, and decided to send myself to boarding school, the other side of the world, to my family and my friends, and anything that I really knew. But that's how I ended up where I am today, 17 years old, with a passport from one country, home in another, bedroom in another, and memories in so many, here on a stage in front of all of you to talk about ourselves, the future of today. Because there are far too many times I've heard people say hateful and discriminatory things towards Gen Z, both the population of Gen Z ourselves and the older generations, our parents, our grandparents, those who raised our generation. But first, you need to understand who are Gen Z. Well, basically I am, and it's defined by the demographic of young people who are born between 1995 and 2012. But really, Gen Z is defined by having grown up in the technological era, for better or for worse, because as technology develops so rapidly around us, it impacts the way that we communicate and connect with each other and the world around us. And I didn't used to understand how this could be a positive thing. I used to ask, what is it they expect us to do? What are we supposed to do? Because we were born on a burning earth and bullied for not putting out the fire fast enough. Kids were born and handed iPads and their parents complain when they can't socialize. We were born in a world full of propaganda for hatred, and they complain when we listen. We're born in a world where the only options of politicians are corrupt old men, and they hate that we don't want to have to choose the least terrible out of them. When Mozambique has natural gas reserves estimated to contest the International Space Station in investment value, yet the country and the people see nothing. There are still children going to school under trees with no books and no bathrooms. There are still children not in school at all. There are desert islands that tourists visit on helicopters, yet the country and the people still see nothing. There are still adults who are forced to sell their daughters into marriage to put food on the table, yet at least they see their president driving a shiny new car. And yet, older generations don't appreciate that we don't want to have to choose the one that we hate the least, the one that took the lowest cut in a hidden debt scandal, or bought the least Ferraris on the taxpayers' money. We want to have a different option. And so, let's become that different option. Because Gen Z was handed an incredibly hard set of cards, and yet we have fixed so much. We drink less under and overage than previous generations. We're the first demographic of people to break the rising trend of alcohol consumption. Additionally, this graph shows the number of births per 1,000 women aged 15 to 19, and this blue-purple line represents the first year that Gen Z were old enough to be considered. And although this number is still not 0, we are bringing it far closer, and that in itself is an achievement. And there are far many things I could list or show you graphs of, far more many reasons to be proud to be a member of Gen Z, as I am. For one, we are far more socially aware and globally connected than any previous generation. We all know about genocide and war, we all understand climate change. And as an international and connected community, we understand better than anyone the vitality and fragility of peace. So this is what we're supposed to do. It is our role as a generation to spread and bring peace globally. But I understand this doesn't start on an international stage telling presidents what to do, because first we need to know what to do. This starts by educating ourselves, finding something that interests you, whether it's global events, politics, STEM, music, artists, something that interests you. Find reliable sources and indulge your own curiosity. Because in this country, but unfortunately not everywhere in the world, we have access to free media, so take advantage. Another way we can start to bring peace is through noticing. Now, I know this sounds a bit simple, but hear me out. When I was 12 years old, I saw this older teenager in my gymnastics doing all the skills that I wanted to do on the team that I wanted to be on. And I really wanted to talk to her because I wanted to be just like her. But when I tried, it was incredibly hard because we didn't speak the same language, we weren't from the same country, we weren't the same age, we weren't on the same team, and I couldn't manage to talk to her really. But a year later, I found myself on her team. And I was really proud of myself, and I decided then that I would work out how. And we started to talk, and it was with her that I learned how to speak Portuguese, and that I started feeling like I actually fit in this country. We would talk about everything that was going on. Boyfriends, friends, breakups, new skills, competitions, new countries, and she became one of my closest friends. And through this, we both learned how to speak another language. When I met her, we didn't speak a single in common, and now we both speak two in common. I'm here talking to all of you, and she's in Azerbaijan, learning more gymnastics and learning more English. And those who know me know how much I love to talk. I talk so much I've been interviewed on national television more than 3 times, and the head teacher of every school I've ever been to has known my first name. But talking is important because it allows people to connect and share ideas, even across language barriers. Like for example, one night I went out with my sister in Croatia, and we met a group of international friends who had also just met each other, but they didn't speak English, and we definitely didn't speak Italian like any of them. And so with a bit of French, a bit of Spanish I made up from Portuguese, a lot of gestures, and a bit of broken English, we worked out how to talk, and we've had, honestly, an incredible night. Because sometimes it is as simple as this, to make friends. Simply to notice what brings us all together. Whether it's dancing and singing at a club, playing Uno, or watching a movie with subtitles in 3 different languages, noticing what brings us together is a way of making peace, both locally between our friends and internationally. But we can't just act like we're all the same, because we're not. And that's how innovation happens. When Ada Lovelace created programming, she took a combination of efforts of those before her, yes, but she succeeded by being and thinking differently than them. When Alan Turing developed the bomb machine, and when Marie Curie discovered radium, they took advantage of what differentiates themselves. So, for the Gen Z in this room, remember what I've told you today. Educate yourself, find something that interests you, talk to anyone you can find in any language that works. Notice what brings us all together and appreciate what differentiates ourselves. And for the adults in this room, it is on you to include Gen Z and the future of today. Ask their opinions and their suggestions. Whether you think they care or not, ask, because in many situations, you'll find a solution you never would have even considered previously. Because diversity benefits everyone, not only those being newly included. Because if you think about it, at the very base level, younger people or different people have different ideas and thoughts, and therefore unique solutions. And sometimes that is simply what a problem needs. And so for everyone here, let's work together to create change, because I don't want the youngest president in the world to be almost 40 years old, which is true right now, by the way. And when I grow up and when I graduate, I want to work in development. But I don't want to be the youngest at every meeting. I don't want to be the only woman. I don't want to be the first or the only. I want to be one of a group and a community of Gen Z who is speaking up and working for what we believe in. So for the sake of our future and our world, let's make this a reality. Thank you very much.